Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to a first impressions video for Ara History Untold. I just finished a 3-hour live stream where I played this game for effectively the first time, and I wanted to quickly for YouTube provide an overall impression of the game so far. I have not gone past the first act at this point, but so far have found it extremely enjoyable. It is a 4X turn-based strategy game, therefore occupies the same genre as something like Civilization, but really the differences between the two are kind of night and day. So there are quite a lot of different leaders to choose from, different civilizations to choose from, and you put down cities and they grow in size and they've got various resources, but there are a massive number of resources. And in fact, the production system in this game is much more reminiscent of something like an Anno game or a Victoria game or something like that. For example, if I were to look at my nation's inventory over here and I clicked on show all items, we can see there are 50 different raw resources that you can collect in the game. There are then 110 different goods that can be produced through your various industrial systems. 73 different types of units can be put into your reserves and then formed into armies. And there are a huge number of masterpieces that can be made. These are sort of just unique kind of wonder objects that you can have. And of course, you can also build wonders in the game. I'm currently attempting to build the Colossus of Rhodes over here on the coast, and I have previously built Stonehenge over here in Hasselt. I'm playing as Belgium, by the way. There you go. And we built the Stonehenge over here. Notice how far I can zoom in over here. There's an extraordinary amount of detail on this game map. Does this sort of detail need to exist in a 4X turn-based strategy game? Perhaps not, but it is very pretty. Does it add to gameplay? No, I suppose not. But again, it is very nice. The city management screen over here, there have been some things that I have read for players who have gone into the later eras, and some reviews from reviewers who have had the ability to play into the later eras. It does seem that some of the city management might become a little bit tedious later on. I cannot personally comment on this at this point. Certainly, there is a lot of possible micromanagement in some of these city things, because, for example, the way that your cities grow is for every unit of population you get, you annex an additional region. So this is a region, this is a region, this is a region, and so on and so forth. You can see my regions listed over here. Each region has a certain number of zones or slots in them. So Brussels is my city center. It has 5 slots. That's great. Dendermonde over here had 3 slots, 3 zones, 3, 2, 4, and then 2 over here. There are plenty of them that have 5, but look at one of my other cities. There you go. Hasselt over here has Courcelles near it, which has 5 slots. We've got Genk with 4. Each one of these slots is space for one building / improvement. Those are sort of one and the same in here, unlike Civilization. Well, Civ 7, there's some overlap here, I'd say, with Ara, and a little bit with Millennia, and a little bit with Humankind, and a little bit with Civ 7. So far, Ara's implementation is pretty exciting to me, and I kind of like the way it works. So your city grows, you annex another region, and then that region shows up over here, and that's where you can build things. I can build something by opening the queue, selecting a project, selecting a building, say I want to build, say, a water well, and then I can click on a specific little zone here to build it in. I actually much prefer, generally speaking, instead to go over on the right, and you can see as I mouse over this, it does highlight which one of these zones there are. I can go and click on one of these to build in this zone specifically, and it nicely would also filter this list to just things that apply here if it was something that mattered. This actually might be kind of irrelevant if I go back to Brussels over here, and we've got a sea zone in the Coral Sea. If I click here, it's only going to show me the fishing net because it's the only thing that makes sense. On the flip side, if I go back to Hasselt, I recently expanded to this region here, which has a sheep in one of the zones. On this tile over here, if we click on this, it'll recommend that I can build a farm, so this will make a sheep farm or sheep ranch, I suppose, because in addition to being a farm, which will just generate some food, this will also generate more resources. I am currently getting wool as a resource from this tile. There's also just sheep as a resource, domestic sheep over here as a resource that we can then throw into presumably a butcher shop to make cured meats. If we go through the nested things over here, there we go. Sorry, if you hold shift, it'll actually lock it, which is very convenient. If I hold shift, it'll keep these tooltips open. So actually, I didn't really want that one, but sure. I want this tile over here. Let me try this one again. Hold shift, get to the sheep. Thank you very much. Cured meats, perfect. And then if I built the butcher shop, there you go. So the butcher shop can basically produce cured meats from all these things, this huge chain of production. And so if you're like me and enjoy production chains and crafting and things like that, there's a lot of satisfaction that can be gotten here. One of the concerns is in the very late game, as your cities have grown substantially bigger and you have many, many, many more resources and then many, many more goods that you can build, does it become cumbersome to micromanage these chains? So that's part of it. The other thing is, and I think to complete my thought, this region, I am getting some wool and some sheep just from owning this region. But in addition to that, if I build a farm here, it will increase the production that much further. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at this screen as well. So this is all my zones, but I could also just show me all my currently built improvements over here. Or I can specifically say, show me just the harvesters. So my farms, hunting camp, stone pit. Or show me just the crafting stations. So I've got a gathering hall and I'm building a ceramic shop. In addition to this, if I go especially to Brussels, which is more developed, and I pick, say, my workshop over here, this workshop can craft multiple different goods. Currently, I have it building these lithic tools, although we're kind of getting past that phase over here, and I might want to start building something else. For example, I could start building metal tools over here. So if I click this, it'll enqueue it, because this is its own production building with its own queue. Or what I could do is I could just say, listen, let's do this infinitely, and I could remove the lithic tools over here and just have you do metal tools. Or I can turn off the infinite queue, build me 5, and then it'll prompt me when this is done to maybe do something else. So not only so in each city, you have multiple regions. Each region has multiple zones. Each zone can have an improvement, some of which has multiple options for crafting. Not only that, the workshop itself can be supplied with various goods to boost its production. Over here, production and potentially other things. It's not always production. It'll sometimes give you other things. In this case, the rope will give us a crafting production over here. But then the specific building queue we're doing. So here are the metal tools. This workshop has got a production rate of 26. It's being 26 production points per turn. You need X amount of production points to produce each metal tool. I think I can see it more clearly. I don't know where I see what the total number of production it is, but we can see currently a production rate is we're going to get one. Oh, there we go. Production cost is 450. So I'm currently getting one metal tool every 18 turns from this raw production. However, I can go and accelerate production by feeding it some raw resources. So if I had access to steel or if I had metal ingots, I'm actually on the cusp of starting to build metal ingots, but I don't have it right now. But if I had these, we could consume 1 steel per turn or 2 metal ingots per turn, or I can do 15 wealth per turn. And this will give me 375 raw extra production, which is substantially more than my 26. So let's say I'm willing to spend 15 gold per turn, which is half my income, my excess income right now, which seems fine. Maybe I'll do that. I'll put in the wealth, and now all of a sudden, an extra 375 production. Now I'm getting 1 metal tool every 2 turns. And what's interesting is once I start getting metal tools, these can be fed back in here. I can feed the metal tool into this workshop. It doesn't consume it. The supply, so anything down here is getting consumed. Anything over here just exists. So once I get a metal tool, I can give it to this workshop and it can use it. I can later on decide to remove this metal tool and then use it for something else. But for now, we can do that. And we can see the raw materials over here, 21 turns versus this. And there we go. So we've got these complex production chains that are absolutely fascinating. Your city also needs a lot of different things to keep it happy. So there is a housing, which controls the maximum growth of the city. So we can see that over here. But then we can see this quality of life situation where there are 5 different resources. There's happiness, health, knowledge, prosperity, and security, which all factor into the overall quality of life of the city, which helps it in various ways. And in particular, there are certain breakpoints. So you can see here, because I have 70 prosperity, at 70 prosperity, I get 25% extra tax income in the city. If I can get the prosperity up to 80, then I get 50% bonus tax income in the city. With happiness, it's production, for example. At 60, I get plus 10%. If I could get up to 70, I'd get more. So these are things you can balance. We've got these amenity slots over here. So this is one of the things we do with our goods. Not only do the goods go into the production chains, but they can also provide amenities for the city. So I'm providing it with some tunics over here. 1 tunic gets consumed every 10 turns. While this is active, I'm getting 15 extra city prosperity, which seems great because, again, it's giving me that extra production. Once I run out of tunics, assuming I don't have a production, and I don't think I do. I think tunics... Yeah, I have 2 stored up. I have no tunic production. I've just gained some tunics somewhere along the way. I'm slowly consuming them. 1 every 10 turns, 0.1, that makes sense. I'm slowly consuming them. Then this will run out, and then I'll put something else in. Currently, there's no alerts letting you know that you've got empty amenity slots, which as your city grows, you get more and more amenity slots. It also, you don't currently get an alert when you run out of these goods. If you open up a city, the good here will be there with like an exclamation mark underneath it to show you don't have any, but there's currently no alert, as far as I know, to let you know this is there. And so these are sort of quality of life, user improvement things that would be nice to see. it might be nice to get some extra notifications over here. So, for example, in Brussels, currently the Great Hearth is missing something in this slot, and different slots use different goods. But I can use a wheel or a lithic tool over here in this first slot. The lithic tool, we can see, when provided a supply, it increases, in this case, the crafting production, because this is a crafting building producing feasts for me. So it gives a 25% boost. This could also give me a 50% boost to harvest production if it's, say, at a farm or a mine or something like that. I could also put a wheel in here. This wheel is plus 50% craft production. There we go. So the wheel would be much better in a slot to give us extra production to build feasts faster. And these feasts are being deployed as an amenity in these cities, which is giving us extra growth, city food, and happiness. So again, if you like both Civilization as well as things like Anno or the Victoria games, this might actually be the perfect game for you. If you're looking for something that's specifically like Civilization, it's possible that these things would be overwhelming. Is it worth the cost of the game? Depends entirely on you. All I can say is so far on my first 3-hour stream, I didn't want to stop playing it. I'm excited to be playing some more. How is the late game going to feel? How is the game balance? How competitive is the AI? The diplomacy system, how interesting and deep is it? Well, again, are we comparing it to Civ? Are we comparing it to Europa Universalis? Are we comparing it to different things? Different systems have different amounts of diplomacy depth. I don't know the advanced diplomacy yet. We haven't gone into the late game. I can tell you that Ramalama Ding Dong over here has been a jerk the entire game, and I hate him, and I'm going to be building up a military to go punch him in the face. Meanwhile, I've been great bros with Simone, and I recently met Ya of Ghana over here, and things have been going swimmingly well, and I'm having a wonderful time with them, and I'm looking forward to us being able to advance to the future ages and go over here. Hey, we should speak about ages. They're all the rage right now. Humankind, Millennia, Civ 7, everyone's doing ages for the game. How does it work over here? Well, let's talk about research. I'm currently in the Iron Age. In the Iron Age, I have all these technologies to choose from. I can research any of them in any order. There's no tech tree here, but these are the Iron Age technologies. Once I've researched a certain amount of Iron Age technologies, I can research the Era Catalyst, which in this case would be researching seafaring, and that would advance me to the next age. And what's interesting is any techs you didn't research actually get abandoned at that point. So when you've got enough to advance to the next stage, you may or may not want to do that immediately. But one of the things that's also interesting here is that there's duplication in things. If we look at hospitality over here, some of these you'll see these little check marks. Or if we look in this pop-up over here, you can see that road pass, wine, and fermenting pit are kind of grayed out. That's because I already have access to this from other technologies I've chosen in previous ages. Currently, researching hospitality would give me the inn and gourmet meals, as well as giving me 8 prestige, which is the win-loss condition of this game, which I'll try to remember to talk about in just a moment. So I might not prioritize researching hospitality because I already have the ability to make a fermenting pit and I have the ability to make wine. It's in fact the very first thing we researched in this game because it was kind of funny, and Brussels, I happened to settle right next to some grapes. So our first expansion, we got a new region. I expanded this region over here. I then built a farm over here on the grapevines. And then I built a fermenting pit so that right over here, fermenting pit is currently making some wine for us. And all of our people are super happy. I've also used it as a trade good with my neighbors. I tried to bribe Ramalama Ding Dong over here by offering him a gift of wine, and he turned it down. The absolute jerk. See, this is why we're going to go punch him in the face. So there's some interesting decisions that are getting made with the technology tree over here. Because I might be like, okay, so I'm going to miss out on the inn and the gourmet meal here, but there'll probably be a way for me to do this later. And we can confirm, in fact, so this gourmet meal is crafted at the inn, the pub, and the hotel, which is probably the upgrade chain starting from the inn. If we mouse over the inn, does it tell us what technology unlocks? Unlocks with hospitality. So maybe that's the only option. But I could presumably skip it and wait until we get to brewing. Ooh, which sounds like fun. Beer, hey! So this is in the early Middle Ages. So we could just research brewing, and that will give us access to the pub, and we will just bypass the inn altogether. I think it's going to lead to some interesting sort of thoughts about what to build, because what you're going to look for your early technologies is going to be based maybe on what resource is going to be exploited near where you are. And by researching something that, say, like, again, if you started with grape, then you might want to prioritize the... I can't remember what the tech here was that gave me the fermenting pit. I don't know. Anyway, so I prioritize that, which means it removed the priority from something later on, like hospitality over here. Whereas another game, if I didn't start with the early farming and doing the wine stuff, then, I think the tech was just called fermenting. Then I might not have ever bothered researching fermenting in the very first era, in which case now I'd be excited for hospitality because it'd be opening up stuff that I probably now have found some grape later on in the game. So I think the nature of this tech tree is going to lead to some variation in gameplay, which I think is going to be really good. Let's talk about the prestige system. Again, this is sort of the win-loss system for the game. So yeah, we're playing as Leopold I of Belgium, the first, not the other guy. And we've got this prestige tab over here on this screen. And there are a number of different categories in which we can earn prestige. And in this category, we can then expand it even further and see where I'm getting prestige. So I've earned 344 from government. Some of that was from completing an act goal. A lot of it is quality of life. So having positive quality of life in your city constantly earns you some prestige every single turn. Culture-wise, we can take a look here. We've got a triumph. That triumphs is what they call world wonders in this game. Maybe they've got some abstracted versions of it as well too. But I have built the Stonehenge. That earned me 150 prestige. I am working on the Colossus of Rhodes, which will earn me some prestige, as well as having some other effects at the same time. But there you go. So 100 prestige from completing this, and it's going to give me C force cap. I'll explain that. It affects our army sizes basically. But I also have goals. So right over here, I have a goal. First goal, and we've already achieved this, was to reach 10,000 population. We were the second people to get there. First people to get there was Venezuela. They got 150 prestige from that. I was there second, so I got 100. And then we've got Ghana, who got the third, and presumably just the first three got it. There's also a goal over here of building the Colossus of Rhodes, which seems to just have the one first reward. So when we complete it, not only do we get 100 from building the wonder, but we'll get the extra 150 from completing this as a goal. And if these goals are randomized, like I might not have been interested at all in building the Colossus Rhodes, except that this goal came up, which meant I A, researched the technology that was required to build the Colossus, and B, am now building it. And this again might mean I'm not going to prioritize certain other technologies because whichever tech gave me the Colossus might have some duplication with other things. I think that's really fascinating. Let's talk about combat just briefly. I actually don't really have a military to talk about in this game. We've been playing very diplomatically. Everything has been groovy. We've got a few units running around, but it's not a really good image of things. What we can do is we can build here as a project. We can build units. So I can go take a look at our units over here. So currently I can build archers and spearmen. I can't build swordmen right now because I don't have metal ingots. Although again, I think we're getting in a position where I'm going to be producing some of those relatively soon. By the way, if you're interested in this gameplay, the Twitch VOD, first of all, will be available. It is available now on twitch.tv/Quill18. And I'm going to be uploading it to YouTube. I mean, it's uploading now as you're watching this. Potentially being processed or something like that, or it might already be live. So check up on the YouTube channel, and the VOD from today's session will be there. And then we'll be continuing this game certainly on Twitch as well. So what happens when you build these units is they actually don't show up on the map like you would expect from playing Civilization. They don't suddenly pop in over here. Instead, what they do is they show up as reinforcements. So we've got our managed forces over here screen. These are my currently active specialists. We can build new forces is what they're called. A force is the thing that runs around on the map. So if I had any reserves, what I can do is I could build a new force, a sort of army from that. I would currently the formation is squad. Squad has room for one person. I would simply take one of my units from my reserves, deploy into the squad, and then I would have a unit that would be able to move around on the world map. But I have different formations unlocked. Currently, I only have battalion unlocked as a second formation, but this is a group of 3 over here. So we got 3 units, but then I've also got tactics. For example, I've unlocked the wedge formation that I could use here. So this requires that I use exactly 1 melee infantry and 2 projectile units, but will give me a 10% strength. We can see here, that's where my melee goes, and 2 archers. Alternatively, I have the line formation, which is 2 melee on the outside and 1 archer in the middle. So depending on what units I build, I can have them meet certain formations with certain tactics, which will give them certain bonuses. Once you form a force, as far as we know currently in the game, they are static. They will be as is, and you can disband them, but that just gets rid of them completely. The developers have talked about that they are looking to, do they want to be able to make you able to disband the units back into the reserves and then reform the army in some way. Different mechanics like that is something that they're talking about. Right now, the way it is you build the army and that's just the way it is. So we would build a battalion with some sort of formation, and then that would just be how it exists. And then otherwise, you move them on the map. There's no hexes or tiles here instead of these regions, but you still just move sort of one region at a time. I mean, potentially more if you have more movement speed, I don't know, but one region at a time. And then combat is handled very much like a Civ or something, where you just one army runs into another, they do damage to each other. Maybe one of the armies dies, maybe they survive, and then you just repeat the battle like the next turn, or you decide to run away, or you do whatever you want. The combat feels very civvy that way, and that's okay. Very, very simple, very straightforward. Nothing wrong with that. I really appreciate what this game is doing to bring some very different mechanics to a 4X game. This is in no way whatsoever a Civ clone. It's, other than it's turn-based and you're building a civilization, that's kind of the extent. It's a historical turn-based civilization 4X game. Although some people have made the argument that the 4th X, so 4X is explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. Some people have made the point that in this game, they've really kind of de-emphasized the exterminate. And this is clearly a game that's more for builders. I mean, everything about the way the cities work, the way you use the land, you exploit the land, you produce goods, you craft goods from the raw resources, and then continuously like upscale them and then consume them in different and interesting ways, clearly means this is a game more for builders than Civ fanatics. And I think that's kind of wonderful. Again, I haven't gotten to the end game. I don't know if the city management starts to feel tedious at some point. I don't know if the diplomacy or the military starts to feel unsatisfying. All the time, whenever you read reviews, whether they're glowingly positive or negative, consider the fact that not everyone has actually had necessarily always a lot of time to invest into a game. So they might spend a little bit of time, like I've spent a little bit of time in here and really enjoy the early game, but maybe I would hate the late game. Or some people have spent only a little bit of time, never had to rush through the game as quickly as possible, never learned the mechanics, and therefore get a negative view of it. At this point, it really hasn't had a lot of time to cook out there in people's hands for us to say definitively one way or another if it's a solid game. All I can say is that I'm very eager to play another turn. I'm going to end this video right now so that I can start my own non-live stream game so I can play by myself and enjoy it. Thanks for watching, folks. Again, if you're interested in seeing the actual gameplay, the VOD should hopefully maybe by the time this video goes live, it'll already be on YouTube or will be shortly. And as always, you can go to twitch.tv/Quill18. You can check the VODs there and expect some extra live streams this week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.